Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast, Thursday edition. Patrick Allen here with you, as always, as we go into kind of a depressing weekend with no Chiefs football. It is the bye week. If you're listening to this a little bit later, we're recording here on Thursday, November 9th. And no Chiefs game. In fact, it's kind of a bummer because we've got what I like to call the long wait after a bye week. It's already bad when you have a whole week go by without getting to see the Chiefs play football. But this one in particular is kind of rough, because the last game that the Chiefs played was a very early game on Sunday, and the next game that the Chiefs play is the very last game on Monday Night Football against the Eagles, which is going to be a great game. I'm excited for that, but that's a long time between games. Of course, the Chiefs are coming back from Germany, so they want to rest up. They want to heal up. And the good news is the Chiefs got a lot to figure out. They're in really good position, but they've got a lot to figure out. The offense is not moving and putting up points in the way that it has in years past. So Andy Reid's going to go back into the lab. He knows a little bit more about what he has at the wide receiver position and the offensive positions in general. And he also knows what he has on the defensive side of the ball. After, what have they played? Played 8 games so far, right? Yeah. So, you got half a season in if you're the Chiefs. I'm sorry, they played 9 games. So Andy knows what he has, and he knows what he's going to need in the second half of the year. Shout out to everybody watching on YouTube. We got a great show lined up for you today. Kylie Winfrey from the Kingdom Kast is going to be joining me in just a little bit. You might remember Kylie. She was on, you should follow her on Twitter because she's a fantastic Chiefs fan, a great follow, and provides good commentary on the team. I'm going to pull up her Twitter right now just so you guys got the, she's at the Kylie Winfrey. Pretty simple. She's going to be on. We're going to look back at the season so far, hand out some hardware to the Chiefs players who for the first half of performances, and then we're going to do a little take it or leave it on the second half of the year and our predictions for the rest of the way. We want you guys to be interactive with this show, so make sure you're letting us know in the comments on YouTube live what you think the answers to these questions are. Who's your first half MVP for the Chiefs, offense, defense, special teams? We're going to do all that. Super excited to get into it. And then I got to let you know that we've got a little something for you here. Even though there's not going to be any Chiefs football, that doesn't mean that you can't have fun. Maybe betting on some sports. Sleeper Daily Fantasy. Chiefs fans, if you haven't heard of Sleeper Daily Fantasy, Sleeper hosts daily fantasy prop games that you can compete for a chance to win big cash prizes. The game is simple. For each contest, you're given a pool of props for the upcoming games across different sports. You pick whether each prop will be the over or the under the given total. And you can choose up to 8 different props for a chance at a bigger prize. If you want to join in on the action, we've got you covered. All you got to do is sign up with our promo code FANSIDED2 today and receive a deposit match up to $100 using code FANSIDED2, FANSIDED 2. When signing up, not only gives you this great reward, but it also directly supports this podcast. So make sure to use the promo code FANSIDED2 when you sign up. This offer is only available for new customers who are 18 and older, 19 and older in Nebraska, and 21 and older in Massachusetts, and physically present in a valid state. Please remember to always game responsibly and check the episode description for the full terms of the offer. Appreciate everybody's support on that. Shout out to our members, by the way. If you're interested in becoming part of the Arrowhead Addict team here, check out the link in the description. We've got a great membership program, fantasy football, trivia, all kinds of really fantastic stuff. Okay, so I wanted, before we bring Kylie on, and this is sort of going to be part of the show. We're going to be talking about this stuff, but Pro Football Focus has released their all-pro team at the midseason mark. So there's a lot of people on here. Obviously, not all of them are Chiefs, but 3 Chiefs made the list. So if you want to check this out, it's over at profootballfocus.com. And I wanted to highlight the Chiefs that are on there, see if you guys agree here. Okay. So Travis Kelce makes their second team. Travis Kelce's first team, all pro. Second team went to George Kittle of San Francisco. Kelce has 49 more receiving yards than the next best tight end. This is what they wrote. And is the only player at his position to see 10 or more targets and to earn a 90-plus Pro Football Focus receiving grade, and is averaging a position-leading 2.43 yards per route run. That's, if you're not familiar with yards per route run, that's a fantastic outcome there for Kelce. I got to say, I agree with it. Even though he missed a game this year, even though the Chiefs offense hasn't really been rocking or rolling, Travis Kelce's still been that dude and is on pace, I think, for, he should get another 1,000-yard season. Absolutely remarkable what he's been doing. And I agree with Pro Football Focus. He should be on the all-pro track this year yet again. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, make sure you hit that like button. Let's talk some Chiefs football. Next up, let me find it here. Is at the guard position. So first team all-pro for Pro Football Focus guard. That went to Tyler Smith at the Cowboys. Second team went to our guy, Joe Tooney. And they didn't really, they only write about the person who gets first team. So they didn't really talk too much about Tooney here. But look, man, I feel like Joe Tooney is one of these guys. Let me know if you agree, that gets a little bit overlooked. Everybody knows he's great, and you kind of just take him for granted. And the offensive line in general has been playing well this year. And the Chiefs paid him a lot of money when they brought him over, and rightfully so. He's lived up, I think, to the contract for the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, they got a Super Bowl out of the deal. He's versatile. He can play left tackle if they need him, probably play right tackle. So he's fantastic. I see some people asking about what's going on with the chat. Is there a problem on YouTube? Not sure. Anyway, so Joe Tooney, second team All-Pro over at Pro Football Focus. And then number 3 here, it's a defensive player. If you're watching on YouTube, fire off in the chat. Let me know if you've got a prediction. If you haven't seen it already, of course. I'll give you a guess, but you probably won't need it. It's Trent McDuffie. And he comes on as a first team All-Pro for Pro Football Focus. Best cornerback, in their opinion. That's what that means in the NFL. And here's what they wrote. In his second year out of Washington, McDuffie is impressing once again for the Kansas City Chiefs. Across 315 coverage snaps, he has allowed just 1 touchdown. I'm going to say that. I'm going to repeat that one. Across 315 coverage snaps, he has allowed just 1 touchdown. But most impressive is his ability to strip the ball away from his opponents with 4 forced fumbles so far this year. And you know what I think that's what I think so cool about that stat for McDuffie. And when we think about cornerbacks, like shutdown cornerbacks, we either think of like the lockdown guy who nobody ever throws at, or the like Marcus Peters type ball hawk who ends up pulling a bunch of interceptions. Chiefs don't have a ton of interceptions. I don't think anybody on the Chiefs has more than 1 interception this year. But McDuffie's found a way to make an impact stripping the football. So after guys already caught the ball, whether he gave up the catch or not, he's finding a way to dislodge the football and create turnovers, which is taking a defense that is already really good and winning games. Those are game-winning plays, as we saw against the Miami Dolphins. That was the difference in that game. So, nobody could argue, these guys, cornerbacks are not generally very big. Hey, make the tackle, get out of there. McDuffie's got a nose for the football. He's a gamer, man. He's as I think the NFL players would say, he's a dog, right? Like, he is out there shutting guys down, not giving up big plays, not giving up touchdowns, and he's turning the ball over. So there's other people that I think could be on this list. Now they're looking at it all pro, first team and second team. So you've got to be the best or the second best in your position. But pretty impressive outing here. Now you probably noticed that one person who's not on this list is the best quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. Here's how PFF went with quarterback. They went with Lamar Jackson. And then second team, Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills. I'm not sure Josh Allen's having that much better of a season than Patrick Mahomes, but here we are. Here's what they wrote about Lamar. Jackson's 86.6 PFF passing grade, which would be a career high, ranks third in the league, and he leads all quarterbacks with 428 rushing yards. He's already forced 26 missed tackles on rushing attempts this season, 6 more with the second ranked quarterback, and has 14 big-time throws that are tied for 8th in the league. New offensive coordinator Todd Monken has helped Jackson and the Ravens' passing attack, but the former league MVP's own development has been just as important to this offseason, to this offensive success. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. I agree. I think Lamar's had the best season so far. The Ravens are on a roll. They've played a couple good teams, not a murderer's row type schedule, but when they've played some better competition, they've wiped the floor with them. I mean, they've really been good. Baltimore has the same record as the Chiefs. Chiefs don't play Baltimore this year unless they meet in the playoffs. But we should start paying attention to the Ravens. They've won 4 in a row. Their only losses, they had an overtime loss to Indianapolis earlier in the season. And they lost to Pittsburgh, division rival. We know how those games can go. The Chiefs just lost to the Broncos. They lost to them 17-10. But since that game, they've beat the Tennessee Titans 24-16, wiped the floor with the Lions 38-6, 31-24 over the very bad Arizona Cardinals team. And then last week played Seattle, team with a winning record, 37-3. So they've got a really good defense. Lamar's playing well on offense. And so that's a team that's going to go as far as Lamar takes them. Tom Hood says Ravens are getting a lot of hype. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the Chiefs kind of flying under the radar a little bit. But this Ravens team is for real. And one thing that's interesting, and I'll probably talk about this with Kylie in just a second. The Chiefs right now, they've got the number 1 seed because they've got the tiebreaker over the Ravens. But interestingly enough, the Ravens are going to play. The Ravens will play this week. They play the Cleveland Browns. Could be a tough game. And then they play the Bengals. So they've got two big games coming up. But funny enough, before the Chiefs, they have the same record right now. But by the time the Chiefs play another football game, the Ravens could have 2 more wins. So the Ravens could be 9-2 and the Chiefs 7-2 before the Chiefs step on a football field again because of the bye week, and the Ravens have a later bye week. So keep an eye on Baltimore if you're looking for a team to watch. If you got Sunday ticket or whatever, while the Chiefs are on the bye week, that could be a potential playoff contender against the Chiefs and somebody who's hunting for that number 1 seed. Tom Hood says Ravens will get all the hype only to be knocked out in the first round. We shall see. All right. That's it for me. Let's bring on our guest, Kylie Winfrey of the Kingdom Kast. What's up, Kylie? How you doing?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
Wonderful. Then I'm doing great. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing okay. I'm a little bit, I'm not enjoying the getting dark at like 4:30 anymore. That's not fun.
Man, I could not agree with you more. Leaving work at 5 and realizing you've missed the entire day is kind of a bummer. Going to work when it's dark and then leaving when it's dark is kind of a bummer. But it's been pretty nice, at least. The temperatures have been warm. So
it is warmer. I used to work on Wall Street back when I used to live in New York City, and I'd have to get up really early because I had to commute in 30 minutes on the train. And I worked in an office, and I worked in the front, and the front didn't have any windows. And during this time of year, it was absolutely brutal. I worked from like 7 to 6 p.m. and it was like dark when I left the house and went into the office. And if I ordered lunch at my desk, I literally did not see the sun. And I started to crack up a little bit. So I feel you. I'm lucky enough now, at least, that I work from home and I've got the windows here and I can like step out and get some fresh air.
Yeah, you're lucky. I was going to say there's a window behind you, so you've got a little bit of visibility to the light. Yeah. That's tough. I feel like onset depression, it's really easy to be depressed right away.
Yeah. And
But that's okay.
it's not too bad. Like, so it doesn't bother me as much early on in the season. And I think part of the reason is because it's like it's the holidays. So it's like, okay, like we got Thanksgiving coming up and then Christmas and everybody's houses are decorated with like lights. So when you're out, it's like cheery. I think I'm team people need to leave their Christmas lights up until like March. Because when everybody takes them down in January and you go outside, it's just depressing. Like at least why not? Like why not leave the lights up so that at least it's pretty outside?
I'm totally with you on that. I absolutely hate winter. No offense to anybody out there who likes winter. It's totally fine. I'm just not that girl. I absolutely, like you said, I love it right now. We've got football going on. Obviously, that always helps. And then the holidays are always really nice. But then as soon as January gets here, it's just like at least there's a little bit of football, especially for Chiefs fans. Lately, we've really had the luck of having our team playing through February, which is really nice because once February hits, I'll tell you what, it is full depression for me.
Yeah.
Like there's the football withdrawals, and then of course it's dark out, it's cold out. Yeah.
February is
It's
brutal.
rough.
It's
bad.
really it's really, really brutal. Absolutely hate it. Sorry, there's a package and someone's knocking on my door and my wife's sick and I'm doing a show. So I guess they're just going to have to leave the package. By the way, that's a great sweatshirt. I've noticed that these are in fact like the sort of like it's like an old school logo, right? Can you show it off for everybody?
Yeah, can you see?
Yeah. It feels like a lot of what we had when I was growing up in the 90s.
Yeah. This is actually not a vintage piece. I do have a couple of like vintage it's crazy to call them vintage when you think of the 90s.
Yeah.
Like not to date myself, but this is not a vintage piece. I got this last year for Christmas. But yeah, you're right. Like it's definitely, and the cut is a little different. Like you can't really see the cut, but the arms are a little longer. I don't know. I'm pretty specific with my sweatshirts because I've got long arms, so I need to make sure that it's long enough for me to, secure things. But thank you. I'm addicted to Chiefs gear. So I feel like that's another thing. It's like once the season's over, I'm like, what do I wear? Like I feel like I'm in Chiefs gear every single day of the week, at least, throughout the weekend. And then the season's over and I still want the knee-jerk reaction to just go ahead and keep wearing it. But yeah.
I'm with you. I never get rid of anything. Like I've always got, I keep all of my Chiefs stuff and I just never get rid of it. And my closet is now like half Chiefs jerseys and sweatshirts. And I'm with you. Like I'm a big fan of Homage and like I buy their stuff all the time. And I think I've seen pictures of you on Twitter, like with the great Derek Thomas t-shirt that they have. I've got that one too. So good. Their sweatshirts are so comfortable. I wear them all winter. Shout out to Homage. We need to get sponsored by them. But yeah,
shout out.
It's rough. It is rough. Cool. Well, thanks for coming back on. It was great having you on a few weeks ago. I know I reached out to you a while back and we were trying to figure out a time to schedule. And this seemed like a really great time to have you back on because we're like halfway through the season now. We talked to you before the season. It's been a little bit of a wild ride. I mean, just the football aside, like Taylor Swift, what do you make of all that nonsense? Are you on it? Are you for it?
So first of all, thank you for having me on. I absolutely love coming on here. I had a great time last time. Couldn't wait to get back on here. I was bummed we couldn't make it work earlier, but I feel like this actually works out really well because like you said, it's the bye. We came off a really great win against Miami, which we'll talk about later, but the Taylor Swift thing has been wild for me. So I'll be completely honest. I was not a Taylor Swift. I was not like a hater, but not a Swiftie by any means. So when this was all going down, I was like, no way. Like over the summer when there was like the friendship bracelet thing going on, I was like, that's not, it was kind of like hard to believe. And then as this whirlwind has kind of happened, it's like, okay, like I have to say they're really cute together. Like, I do think that they make a great couple. She seems legitimately into the games. I love how much she's taken on with like Brittany Mahomes, and they've really formed a really great friendship. I think that's really nice to see. I love that she's really gotten close with his family. At least it seems from the outside perspective that they've gotten really close. So I'm for it. I will say that like as an avid just football fan, as someone who's watched this team since I was a little baby, I just really am all about the football. So in the beginning, when it was like, Taylor's here, it was a little much for me. I do feel like that's calmed down, which is really nice. But yeah, I think it's a great time to be a Chiefs fan. It's like, it's really hard to be upset when you are, I don't want to say America's team, but kind of America's
They
team
are.
at this point. And, Taylor Swift's at the games, and it's a really wild ride.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm for it as long as Travis is happy, right? Like as long as Travis is happy.
Yeah, man, we want the best for our guys. And look, I mean, I like Taylor Swift's music. I've never been like a crazy. I really like her music videos. Like ever since I saw the blank space music video, I thought it was really cool. So I thought those were fun. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, like you have to admit, I mean, it's a circus, but that's what happens when like you have this high profile team and this high profile player, and then the most arguably like what it's like her and Beyonce are like 1A and 1B,
Yeah.
like famous, musicians, singers, like that's it. So I mean, that is somebody like that showing up to the games. It's just a big deal. It brings in a whole new crew of people. Although I have felt a little bit bad about people that are always talking about like, oh, welcome to Taylor Swift fans. Like this is football. Like I'm like, there's probably half of them probably watch football. Just assuming that like people that like Taylor Swift don't like football is kind of silly as well. But it is. It's just like it's like you're dating a Beatle or something, So it's been absolutely wild.
Crazy.
And it's like the networks like they're trying to get the ratings, and it was a little bit like, all right, like give it a rest already. We get it. But has anybody had a sort of? It's got to be kind of wild to be Brittany Mahomes. Like she seems such a nice person, and like they were just like normal people, like he was a sports star and she was too. I'm not exactly sure how good she was, but I know she played professionally for a little while and played at a high level. But to go from like, they're so young, the both of them still, to go from being like just high school sweethearts, and then they go to college, and then like he's really, really, really good, and then he gets drafted, and then there's like a whole year where like they're kind of in obscurity, like Alex Smith's the quarterback, and then boom, it blows up. And think about all the things. It's kind of depressing for me, all the things that have happened to those two in their like they're in their 20s. I'm 40 years old, and I'm like, well, Patrick's lapped me 5 or 6 times already. The man's not even 30 years old. But like now, if just specifically Brittany, you were like a normal person, and then you grew up, and your high school sweetheart became a professional quarterback, and now you're out hanging out with like Taylor Swift and Sophie Turner. And so like she was watching Game of Thrones when nobody knew who she was, and now she's hanging out. It's just got to be absolutely nuts. 2 kids.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree. And then, well, she had, 2 of her friends with her, I believe, over the weekend when all those pictures were taken with her and like Selena Gomez and everybody. Yeah. So you have to think about too, like the friends she's bringing on, they're like, is this our life right now? Like, are we seriously at dinner with Selena Gomez and Taylor Swift? Like I was bopping to her jams 5 years ago. She didn't have any idea who I was. And now here I am. So it does go to show like how quickly life can change. You don't really know.
Yeah.
But
wild. Well, let's get into some Chiefs talk. We are at the bye week. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, do us a solid, hit that like button. We want to hand out some awards. So we're at the bye. So I've got a whole list of questions here I want to fire at you, Kylie, and we want to hear from you guys who are watching in the chat as well. Let us know what you think. By the way, shout out to Flapjack City, who says I'm here for all things Taylor Swift. Okay. So grades. Let's hand out some grades. So how would you grade, Kylie, the team's performance so far this year at the midway point?
I feel like this is it's a harder question than it probably should be, because when you look at the record, it's like, it's so easy. They're 7-2. They're atop of the AFC. Like this has to be an A performance, right? But when you sit down and watch the games, and we know the offensive struggles that they've had, it's hard to give them an A. So for me personally, I'm going to go B-. I feel like the defense, as we know, has done a bulk of the, I don't want to say a bulk of the work, but they've been what's kept us in these games. They've been what's really held us together and given us these victories. So I think when you think about teams in the past and you think about where the defense has come and how they've kind of come on strong late, it's definitely kind of like we're living in the upside down to see our defense be as strong as they are. But because of that, and because I do really consider them to be a top 3, top 2 defense in the league, if you consider, the Ravens, the Browns, other defenses out there, I think you got to give them a B- in my opinion. I know the offense is struggling, but you still can't count out the fact that we've got Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. I do think they'll figure it out. I'm hoping, we keep saying that. Like, how long can we keep saying that? But no, I'm going to say B-. What are you giving them?
Interesting. Actually, I was leaning like A-, but I think you talked me out of it. I'm going to go with a B+. Like, they do get kind of graded on a curve, right? Because they're the Chiefs. I will say that I feel like if the defense was kind of like bad this year and the offense looked good like it always did, and they had the same record, we would probably be grading them higher, just because we're so used to them being like so good on offense, and we just assumed that the defense was always going to be the weak link. And so this is just weird, and it probably feels unsettling. I know it feels unsettling to me to see them not be able to score touchdowns as much. But so I'm going to give them a B+ because the defense has been sensational. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they're getting docked for struggling on offense and for one really bad loss. Like, that loss to Denver should not have happened at all. They should have blown them out, let alone losing to them. So I'm after him for that. And for some of the coaching, I think some of the coaching, Dave Tobe and Andy Reid, I think have struggled at times this year. And, the championship expectations. So as long as they figure it out by the end of the year, I'm fine with it. But they've been very good. You couldn't ask a whole lot more of them. But the fact that they were a dropped pass away from beating the Lions, and then all they needed to do is beat a terrible Broncos team and just run the football, and they just refused, like that to me, you're going to get docked for that. They could be undefeated right now, which would have been incredible going into this game against the Eagles, but still very good, still trending, I think, in the right direction. And I'm with you. I think they're going to figure it out on offense, but they messed up. They turned in a couple of bad papers in the first half of the season. Let us know in the chat what you guys give them. Ronald says, for a repeat, they are a B today, potentially an A in a month. I think that's fair, right? Like, they're a work in progress. And that's sort of the thing I think sometimes that we might forget about this team because of the expectations is they know where they should be at the end of the year. And so I do think that they use the first part of the season to figure some things out. Whereas other teams are like, they can't mess around. Like, they're not good enough. Right. So like a team like the Jaguars can't be like, they're not great. They're good, but they can't just be like, oh, let's fuck around in the first half of the season and figure some things out. They could end up being 500.
Yeah. I wonder if we saw a little bit of that too in the Miami game. I mean, you saw what that opening drive was flawless. I mean, it was just crazy. I was like, where has this team or this offense been? And then you see, our defense make some stops. Miami's not scoring. We see them get that great turnover that turns into a defensive touchdown. And then you kind of see the second half and we take our foot off the gas. Yeah. And I wonder if that's sort of remnant of what we see in the season. Like, we'll do what we need to do to get by. And we saw this last year. And I feel like we were in this same position last year as Chiefs fans. We were like, I'm so frustrated. They almost lost to the Texans and they lost to the Colts. And then we're hoisting the Lombardi at the end of the year. So I'm like, okay, well, yeah, at least there was that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So who is your offensive MVP at the bye week?
It's gotta be Travis Kelce. He's a beast at 34 years old to be putting up the numbers that he's putting up still. I know he didn't have the best game last against the Dolphins, but when he's not on the field, when Pat's not connecting with him, we struggle on offense. It's clear that he is the MVP of that offense outside of Mahomes. Mahomes trusts him. He's the number 1 target. He constantly is able to get open, again, with the exception of Sunday. And when we didn't have him in that first game, we lost by a point. To your point, we lost to the Lions by 1 point. And I truly think if Travis Kelce's out there, we win that game. Oh, yeah. So I feel like he's the most valuable player. We need him on that field. We need him healthy on the field to be victorious.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's my MVP as well. He's fantastic. He's been banged up. He's still out there doing the damn thing. He's incredible. I don't know what we'd do without him. Well, I guess we know what we'd do without him. We'd lose the Lions by a point. So hopefully they can get it figured out and take some of the pressure off him I think that's the big thing. I'd love for him to have just another outrageous season, and he's going to need some of the other guys to step up in order for that to happen. Otherwise, they're just going to put 3 guys on him and dare the other guys to beat him. Evan says Rasheed by far is the rookie of the year so far. I think we're going to get to that. Maybe I have that question. I don't know. We'll see. He's been great. Okay, so this one's, I think, a little bit trickier. Who's your defensive MVP at the bye?
It's easy to say McDuffie. I mean, it's hard. I guess it's easy to say McDuffie, hard not to say McDuffie, because he's just had an unbelievable second year. I mean, he's got like 4 forced fumbles through the first part of the season. I think he's second on the team for tackles. He's just absolutely upped his game from the last season as a rookie. The forced fumble on Tyreek was unbelievable last weekend. And he's physical, and he's on these guys, and our secondary is just, and I know we've got Snead and Justin Reed, and I think both of those guys have come along, and Reed even is better than he was last year. I think that goes to show, how comfortable he is in this defense, but McDuffie is a game changer. Yeah. He's a game wrecker. He's a game wrecker.
Yeah.
So for me, it's McDuffie. I think there's a couple other guys you could go with, but I'll have to go with McDuffie.
Yeah, there's a lot of candidates, I feel like. I thought really hard about going with L'Jarius Sneed on this one. I know he hasn't had like a ton of splash plays, but I just feel like he's like the glue guy. Like he enables them to do so many things across the whole defense that's so important. So like I feel like he's one of those unsung heroes, and we talk about him, but like he's getting outshone by people like McDuffie and some of the pass rushers. He's fantastic. So I wanted to give him as an honorable mention. Other guys have really stepped up. Leo Chenal's had a bunch of tackles for a loss. Obviously, the Drew Tranquil signing, he's really stepped up and helped out in the wake of the injury to Nick Bolton. George Karlaftis is leading the team in sacks, right? Chris Jones is one of the reasons why George Karlaftis is leading the team in sacks. So there's so many different people to point to. But I'm with you. It's got to be McDuffie. He's just been absolutely like sensational and turning the ball over, as I mentioned at the top of the show. That's what gets you the MVP for me. Like all the other guys have played really well, but those turnovers have been so key. That helps tilt the game in your favor. So it's got to be McDuffie. And for somebody who is looking like he's on track potentially to be a first team All-Pro cornerback, like, do you know how hard that is? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, quarterback, you got to beat out, you got to beat out 31 other guys. Cornerbacks, there's a bunch of them out there. I mean, it's really, really incredible what he's done. It looks like the chat agrees. Tom Hood says Trent McDuffie MVP. Lauren Shanks Bolton, when healthy, is so good too. Absolutely. Evan says Sky Moore LVP. Flapjack City, Tyreek Hill trade is the MVP. A little spicy there in the comments. Okay, so let's do special teams. I feel like this is an easy one, but who's the special teams MVP?
Man, it's Harrison Butker. He's perfect through 9 games. I mean, the golden leg, man. He's awesome. Yeah, he's been incredible. I'm with you. It's easily Butker. Nobody's made like a massive impact in the return game. Some guys have played well, but he's been nails for them when they need him. He has been hitting it every time. Seems like he's fully healthy now, and that's good news, because now I think he's got a little bit of his confidence and swagger back after struggling at times the last couple of years with some injuries. And that's really exciting for a guy who, we can hit from 60 plus if the conditions are right. That's good news for the Chiefs. Okay. Man, there were people trying to kick him to the curb last year. Yeah. Oh yeah. You remember? Yeah. They were like, get rid of Butker. I was like, hold on. He's hurt, guys. Yeah. Glad we didn't do that. Sterling Holmes, one of our co-hosts on the show, was very big about, hey, like he was talking to Nick Lowry a lot. And he's like, he's injured. Let him work through it. He's good. And we're seeing the return to form of Harrison Butker. And like, I can't stress enough the fact that he can hit from that distance, at the end of a half. How many times, multiple times over the years, they've gotten the ball with not very much time at the end of the half and got on the outskirts of field goal range and go into the half, and he gets them 3 points. So he's fantastic. He's going to be incredibly valuable down the stretch. And he's hit every big kick they've needed him to make in the postseason and then win the Super Bowl. So, right. Okay. Which player has surprised you the most in the first half? So I'm going to say Drew Tranquil. I feel like that was, for me, the free agency signing of the season or of the year because, first, I can't believe the Chargers didn't want him because when you think about what he's done for this team and how he stepped up as a leader when Nick Bolton has been hurt, it's really remarkable. The communication he's been able to bring to that defense. I mean, last weekend against Miami, I felt like that defense, they were really, really strong with communication. There's a lot of motion happening and they're able to react to that and play to that. And I mean, we saw it firsthand. And I just feel like that's a big kudos to Drew Tranquil. And I think he leads the team in tackles right now, I want to say. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. So Drew Tranquil, I know he's only here on a 1-year deal, but it's going to be some tough decisions come the end of the season in that linebacker room. I mean, whew.
Yeah, great signing. When it happened, I was sort of like, do we need to do this? Okay, I like the depth, but credit to Brett Veach. He's taken some heat for some other moves. That one was great. I'm going the other, actually, I kind of went the other way on this one. The most surprising player for me this year was Sky Moore. And I know we're in a second, we're going to talk about who disappointed us the most. But I'm actually very surprised at how poorly Sky Moore has performed. So it's not even disappointment. Like I didn't think that this was going to be the case. I could have maybe been disappointed if he played better and just, wasn't putting up quite the numbers I thought. But like, this is like, should we move on from this guy level bad?
Yeah.
I feel like, and given his draft capital and sort of some of the flashes that he showed last year, it's just very, very surprising that given this opportunity, he has just not been able to get going. And I think played like, finally, they reduced his snaps to like 15 or something in the last game, pretty much signaling that they're about to give up on him as well. And this could be a guy who in the offseason or something like the Chiefs traded for Kadarius Toney, that at some point this year or next year that they move on from him, especially if Rashee Rice continues to grow. It's just absolutely shocking to me that it's come to this. And I hope the kid can turn it around. Seems like a great kid. But it stinks. It just stinks. So sorry to have to be negative on that one, but I really wasn't a surprising thing for me.
Man, listen, I was banging the drum so hard for Sky Moore in the offseason. I was like, guys, this is it. He's going to be so good second year coming out. It's going to be awesome. The chemistry, he worked with Mahomes all offseason, and it's been really disappointing. Yeah. And I know we're going to talk about that, but yeah, disappointing and surprising, really surprising.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
On that.
And I will say, just to throw out one positive, Mike Dana. Yeah. We talked earlier in the season when we knew we weren't going to have Chris Jones and Charles Omenihu was going to be out. And Mike Dan is a player I've always liked. He's always shown up, made some nice plays. And I called him out specifically as somebody who was going to be really important to the Chiefs this year. And he's been absolutely fantastic when he's been out there helping rack up more sacks. I think he's tied for second. He's as many as Chris Jones, right? They both have like 5.5, something like that. So he's been really terrific. I think, he's in a contract year, I believe. This might be it for him in Kansas City. But what a great, given his draft cap and all of that, he's been a great find for the Chiefs.
Completely agree with you on that.
Okay. So who's disappointed you the most?
I'm actually going to go with Kadarius Toney. And I don't know that I completely fault him for that. I think it's possibly on the coaching a little bit and the decision-making with how they're using him. I think he's really great in space. I just don't feel like they give him an opportunity to get in space. I feel like when you're throwing him little shuffle passes behind the line of scrimmage and he doesn't really have an opportunity to make something happen, it's difficult. I think we saw him in a slant in this last game and he got I think he ran for 17 yards or something. After the catch, I think he got another 10. So I do feel like there is something there, but I'm really disappointed as a guy that they came into the season. They're like, this is our wide receiver run. They declared him as a wide receiver 1. And then to see the very, very minimal output that we've seen from him, it's very surprising, very shocking. And in a team that's really struggling to identify a wide receiver 1, it's really disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And they gave up some pretty serious draft capital to bring him in. And look, he helped them win a Super Bowl. And for that trade will always be worth it to me. But for what they were hoping that he could bring to this team. It's very disappointing. I'm with you. I went back and forth on this one. I think I'm going to have to say Patrick Mahomes. I know it's not all his fault, but I've been disappointed at his ball security and decision making at times this year. And like, look, man, he is God tier, right? So his standard is far above making some of the focus issues that he had. Like the fumble against the Dolphins was a great example of some of the mistakes that he's made this year.
Yeah.
He's got to take better care of the football. He knows it. And he has to know the situation. He's gotten such good protection from his offensive line at times this year. And he's just been standing there. And he's frustrated. He's waiting for guys to get open. But like, he's got to know the situation. It's okay to take a sack, punt the ball, because, your defense is really good. And so he doesn't always have to be Superman. They need him to protect the ball better in the second half. I think he's got 8 interceptions already. I'm not sure exactly how many fumbles, but he's on pace to potentially have his most interceptions in a season, plus the fumbles. So he's the guy, man. He's the franchise. And it's hard to ask anybody to be absolutely brilliant at all times, every single game. But he's one of those players that it is sort of fair to ask it of him, because that's pretty much what he's been his whole career. So he's been a little bit of a letdown for me compared to, every people, the rest of the teams in the NFL would be lining up to get this version of Patrick Mahomes on their team.
No, I mean, you're right, but I think it's completely fair to criticize him in that sense. He has a really high standard. He's had unbelievably seasons up until now, and not to say that this is a terrible season, but to his standard, it's not great. And when you see the effort that they're putting in the offseason, he's bringing guys down, and then he gets to the game and it's hard for him to make a decision, and he doesn't trust his receivers, and he's not bringing them along with him. It's disappointing, and it's a little, I don't want to say out of character, but it feels a little out of character. I don't know. Sometimes it's frustrating too, because I feel like when I'm watching him, I'm like, that's something that Josh Allen would do.
Yeah.
And with that decision making, and I'm like, he, in my opinion, is far and above Josh Allen. So when you see him make those decisions where he's holding on to the ball and he's fumbling and that's a great call out.
Yeah, and it seems like some people actually agree with me in the chat. I was wondering how that one would be taken. Our guy, Angry Drunken German, says he's taken more risks than he's needed to this year. Our offense doesn't live and die by the big play anymore. Just protect the football and keep the chains moving. 100% agree. You've got that defense over there. It's okay to, hold off on trying to make every single drive in a touchdown. Turn it over to those guys. They might get you in good position. Tom Hood says, I give Mahomes the benefit of the doubt. He's working with some below average receivers. 100%. He is. But he's got to have that, with the fumble, he's got to have that clock in his head and protect the football and know when it's not going to work out. He's got to learn, and hopefully he will from the course of the season, when it's time to bail on those receivers and when they're not going to get open. Lauren Shank says, then you have to put Andy Reid's play calling in this boat too, in my opinion. 100%. I was
for sure. Yep.
It was me. It was like Mahomes and Reid. Like, those guys are so important. We need them to show up and figure it out. So, yeah, absolutely. It's tough. But somebody said, there's one I wanted. Oh yeah, ballooned raccoon says, you are a true Chiefs fan if you say Pat is the biggest letdown. Oh, I respect that. Yeah, man. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. Like, we're trying to win back-to-back Super Bowls, so that's the standard. Okay, so what has been your favorite game so far? Let us know in the chat for you guys as well. What has been your favorite game that the Chiefs have played so far this year? It could be excitement level. It was just fun. Anything.
It has to be Miami, just because Tyreek and his mouth. I mean, he runs his mouth all the time, and he ran it all. Tua is the most accurate quarterback, and I'm like, you just came from Patrick Mahomes. Like, what are we doing? And then he was talking about how he's going to put up all these yards and all that. So to see him, not only to see us win, but to see them strip him of the ball and then take it to the house for a touchdown. I mean, that was just so exciting. And I feel like too, seeing that opening drive where the offense felt like they were really humming, I was like, well, hey, okay, we're scratching the surface here. I feel like this is something we can build on. Yeah, it's gotta be Miami. It's gonna be Miami.
It was a fun one, although I was pretty much miserable the entire second half. So that's
Oh my gosh.
that spoiled it for me a little bit. For me, it was the Chargers game. The Bears game was fun too, but the Chargers game, I hate the Chargers, despise them. They always give us a tough game, and they were hanging with us there for a little while, in the first half of the game, and then the Chiefs pulled away and the defense settled down. It was the worst the defense looked the first quarter and a half against the Chargers all season long. Then they settled down. But what felt great was the second half of that game. Remember, at halftime, it was 24-17. The Chiefs scored a touchdown right at the end of the half. But with 7 minutes to go, it was 17-17. And it just felt like in the second half, the Chiefs defense just clamped them down. Mm-hmm. And then the offense got another tutty. And it was 31-17 in ball game. And I was like, oh, man, maybe we're going to have a season where we just dominate the whole division and we don't have any close games. And then we went and lost to Denver. But that one felt good. That was a game where they felt like the Chiefs, what they could be, put up 483 yards of offense in that game. They had 25 first downs. That felt like the ideal if they get the offensive thing. I know it was the Chargers defense and they're trash, but that felt like, okay, this is what it could be like in the second half if we solve this thing.
Yeah. Plus, divisional wins are always fun.
Always satisfying. Okay. Let's see if we got anybody in the chat here. Flapjack City says the Lions game for me. That was I was at that game. It was fun. Unfortunately that we lost. But that, if you just take that last part out where they dropped the ball when they were
gosh.
Tom says Chargers game was very satisfying. They're a division rival, and we beat them convincingly. Yeah, I agree, man. It was great. Angry Drunken German says we all knew the Bears game was fool's gold. The Bears were bad. Yeah. Chris Wright says Bears was true cruise control game. Nice Sunday. That's a fair point. You don't get it's the NFL, so you don't get too many games like that a season where you're sitting there in the second quarter and you're kicking your heels up and opening a beer or whatever, and you're like, this is great, man. I can just enjoy this. Easy win, no stress. And that was the game this year. And I thought the Miami game might go like that.
Yeah.
Then they stopped scoring.
Right.
What do you prefer? Kylie, do you like the games where they coast, or do you like the nail biters?
I mean, I like the games that we coast at because, to your point, I'm not pacing in my living room in the fourth quarter or yelling at the TV. I mean, they're not maybe as exciting, but at least I'm not walking away with a bunch of questions. Yeah. Not like, ooh, the play calling was a little suspect, or if you feel good about that win, you walk away and you're like, all right, we got this. So probably those blowouts are always fun.
All right. Let's get to our next segment. Chiefs second half, take it or leave it. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, hit that like button. By the way, we're way behind on the likes. For those of you who haven't seen this segment before that we do sometimes, it's very simple. I'm gonna make a declaration, right? The Chiefs are gonna win the Super Bowl. Take it or leave it. And Kylie's gonna let me know if she thinks it's BS or not. So and you let us know in the chat. Take it or leave it as well. Okay, so here we go. The Chiefs will beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football after the bye. Take it or leave it.
Take it. Andy Reid off a bye. I feel like they're going to get some things figured out. I know the Eagles are also coming off a bye, but it's a home game for us. I'm going to take it. I think we win that game.
That one is really exciting for me. Flapjack says leave it. Wow. I'm going to say take it. As well. Ronald says take it. Daniel says take it. I'll tell you why. The Eagles are really good this year. They're great, a great pass rush again, but their pass defense has not been good. People have been lighting them up and getting a lot of yards on them. Yeah. That's exactly what the Chiefs need out of the bye to get going. It's a little bit of a weaker pass defense. And I think the Chiefs defense is way better than it was last year, and they beat these guys in the Super Bowl. Diane says, take it. Lauren Shanks says, die Eagles, die. Love it. Yeah, I think the Chiefs get this one. Andy Reid off a bye. Although it's going to be a fraught game. It'll be really interesting to see how the beginning of that game goes, because obviously the Eagles are mad about what happened in February. And so, and we get to see the Kelsey brothers go at it one more time. So maybe not the last time, but at least one more time. But I think the Chiefs get this one out of the bye. Andy just does not lose really to his former proteges, and he has not lost to the Eagles, I believe, since he came to Kansas City. So Andy's not satisfied. Andy's going to want this one, and it's a big game for the Chiefs because as I mentioned, Baltimore could be 2 games up on them by the time they step on the field against the Eagles.
Yeah, no, you're exactly. It's a must win. It's a must win. It's one of those. I mean, I think there's a couple games in the second half of the year that you're like, they're circled. We got to get this one. Yeah. So I'm taking it. We're gonna win.
I think that if they win this Eagles game, if they figure out the offense, they have a shot to run the table. Like they've got Vegas, Green Bay, Buffalo hasn't looked that great. They get Buffalo at home. New England's terrible. They play the Raiders again. There's obviously the showdown with the Bengals, and then the last game of the season against the Chargers. They got a shot. Like, this is the hardest game remaining on their schedule, I think. I know the Bengals have been looking really good recently, but who the hell knows? They looked terrible earlier. Who knows what they'll look like on New Year's Eve? So it's going to be interesting. Okay, next one up. Take it or leave it. Jet McKinnon will have a much bigger role down the stretch. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. I feel like they've been kind of, I don't want to, reserving him a little bit for the second half of the year. He's an older guy, and he's struggled with that groin injury on and off. So I think they've just been sort of resting him and preserving him for the back half. We know he's great in the red zone. I feel like that's an area that the Chiefs have struggled in. I think if we get him more involved, that's an area we could see them improve in. So I'm going to take it. I think he'll have a much bigger role. I think they're going to start opening up the run game a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I'm going to take it as well. And they have to. Like, they have to get him going. And I know they want him for the playoffs, and they're using him in pass protection and all that. But they did that a little bit in the second half of last year, too. They got that screen game going with him. Now, to be fair, they have been using Pacheco more in that, which shows that they trust him a lot more. But McKinnon brings a little bit of a different flavor for them. They used him. He got that touchdown against Miami. So I think we're going to see more of that in the second half. Flapjack says, leave it. Really interesting. What? Chris Wright says, take it. Diane says, take it. Ronald says, take it. Angry Drunken German says, come the playoffs, McKinnon will likely get about 60% of the touches. This looks like his last year. It could be. He's just so good in pass protection for them. You get him out there. I think he really, really helps his team. All right.
He's a dog. He's a dog in pass protection.
He's not a big guy. He's not like, I talked to him at the Super Bowl last year, and I was like, all right, but he stands tall, man. Like, he's not scared, and he locks dudes down. It's really impressive. I asked him at the Super Bowl. I said, you're Patrick Mahomes' personal protector, and he corrected me. He said bodyguard. It was really funny, and I was like, that makes sense. Okay, take it or leave it. Isaiah Pacheco, who currently has 525 rushing yards, will eclipse 1,000 yards.
I'm going to take it. I think I really think, like you said, they've got to lean on that running game. And I think that they need to have more balanced attack. And I think that starts with Pacheco. Any game where I think he's had more than 15 carries, they win. So I definitely think that's something they're going to focus in on the bye and realize, okay, we got to start getting him involved more. The third and short, man. And the third, fourth and short, we got to see him out there more. We have to. I can't deal with these cute little plays, these little pass plays. Like, enough. I'm going to take it.
You don't want Blake Bell throwing passes on fourth and short, third and short.
It's really weird. I don't want him throwing passes. I don't want Tony out there throwing passes.
I'm with you. Angry Drunken German says, nope, he won't get the touches. Tom Hood says, take it. Flapjack says, take it. Ronald, take it. Just about 1,000. Diane says, yes, take it. I'm going to take it too. I know that we're all worried that he's just going to start getting like 6 to 8 carries a game because of Andy, but he's really good. And looking at some of the defenses that they play down the stretch in particular, like they've got 2 games against the Raiders. They're not very good. They play the Chargers again. I think those are games where he can eat and have a couple of big games. So I think he's going to get the volume. I think they're going to be ahead in some games, and I think he's going to get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. The Chiefs offense will figure it out. It's like the motto of this podcast right now. The Chiefs offense will figure it out and start producing better in the second half. Take it or leave it.
This question stresses me out because they have to figure it out. Like they have to figure it out. I'm gonna take it. I have full confidence in this team. I have full confidence that Andy will get out of his own way with the play calling. I think Patrick is, he's a determined guy. He's focused. He knows what he has to do to get this team back on track. And I think they're using this bye week as time to kind of figure that out and figure out what's not working. I think we saw last game, they're starting to use, maybe be more specific with who those wide receivers are. You mentioned, Sky was less than 25%. I think Tony and Hardman both saw less than 25% of the snaps last week. And so I think they're really starting to hone in on who the guys are, the main wide receivers are going to be. I'm going to take it. I'm going
to take it as well. If you're asking me to bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes offense, I ain't doing it. I know they've got they've had struggles on the offensive side of the football, but like the offensive line is better than it was last year. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Pacheco is better than he was last year. The defense is better than it was last year. And it's pretty much the same group of receivers minus Juju Smith-Schuster. The big difference has been Kelsey was hurt for a little bit. MVS has not played as well as he did last year to start the season. Yeah. And Rashee Rice is a rookie, and Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney were out there eating up a bunch of snaps when it wasn't going to work out. So if you believe that they've decided that they figured out in the first part of the season, okay, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, these are our like fill-ins, gadget guys, whatever. Our go-tos are Watson, who Mahomes obviously trusts, MVS, who we think will start getting back on track, and Rashee Rice, who has played 9 NFL games in his entire life and not full snap counts in those games, right? If you believe that Rashee Rice is that dude and he's going to continue to improve, as we often see rookie wide receivers do in the second half of the year, teams start to trust them more. They start to get it. They figure it out. They adjust to the speed of the game, all that stuff. They build a rapport with their quarterback. If Rashee Rice alone takes that leap, I think they'll be okay. It's him and MVS. If those two guys play well in the second half of the year, I think the Chiefs will be just as potent on offense as they were last year. I think by the end of the season, Rashee Rice can give you everything Juju was giving you and more.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, to your point, like what happened to Rashee Rice in that last game? I feel like they used him, and then second half did he go home? He took an early flight. So yeah, I think they're going to get him more involved. And I think they're take it, guys, have faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Angry Drunken German says, put Tony outside wide receiver and let Hardman do kick, play, jet motion game. Yeah, I like that. I like rotating Tony in a little bit. They just seem to want to throw bubble screens and stuff to him and not really have him run downfield. But I just think if they focus on those core guys and let them get going, I think they're going to be okay. I've been really impressed with how Watson's played this year for them when everybody else.
Well, I was going to ask, would you rather it be like, do you want to see MVS and Watson? Do you want to see who do you feel like? Because I feel like they're pretty similar in their role.
Yeah.
I feel like personally, when you think about contested catches, Justin Watson seems a little bit better at that, especially when we know like MVS doesn't go and reach for anything. It's got to come right to him. And that's very frustrating. I would rather see Watson out there personally than MVS.
Yeah, I think it's a consistency thing. They're running a lot of deep routes. They're getting tired. So, maybe you want to just continue to rotate those guys a little bit. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Watson gets that separation. He's got really good hands. Maybe now's the time to, if MVS doesn't start to pick it up, to let him eat some more of those snaps, as long as he's able to do it. And like, look, when I say, somebody said, I cringed at MVS as the answer. Tossie says that. It's not that it's like, oh, we need MVS to go out there and get 1,000 yards. It's just he needs to do something. He needs to give them what he was giving them last year, which was the occasional big catch, right? Or when he stepped up in the AFC Championship game. Like We know he can do it. So it could just be a little bit that they're out of sync. Like, there's probably not a ton of plays where MVS is Patrick's first read. And so, and even if he would be, there's always somebody over the top. Always. Go watch the film. They almost never see single high. Almost nobody ever blitzes because they're terrified. So he's usually covered. And there's not a ton he can always do about it. He just needs to give them a little bit more. I think if he does that, that's a couple first downs more a game than you were getting before. It doesn't have to be, it could be 2 catches for 25 yards. That's like, that could do it as long as he can consistently show up.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Noah Gray. This was a fun one. Noah Gray has 214 yards receiving. Sky Moore has 201. Gray will finish with more receiving yards this season than Sky Moore. Take it or leave it.
This is a hard one.
It is, and it's ridiculous that we're even having this conversation.
It is. You said Noah Gray will have more than Sky Moore. I will take it. I just think we've already seen Sky Moore's snap count get diminished a bit. I don't think they'll use him more when it comes to the second part of the season. Whereas I feel like Noah Gray has been consistent, at least when they need him, when they bring in, 12, 13 personnel. I think I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it too. Sky Moore's snaps are being diminished. Noah Gray's out there, and while he's not primarily a pass catching option for them, they've been running this play. When I was watching some of the film, I've seen it pop up a few different times now, and it's almost always worked. They run this play where they've got Noah Gray and Travis Kelce on the same side, and they both run out, and Gray runs a deeper route, and Kelce, and they run like the same route, kind of like a little, almost like an out route. Sort of like, it's more a little like a post, but like they both run it, and they run it in tandem, and Gray's deep and Kelce's underneath, and the defense always comes down and freaks out to Kelce. It's the play that Noah Gray caught the touchdown on in the game this year. If you go and you watch, that's the play. They ran it another time, and I forget which game it was in, 2 games ago, maybe against Denver, and Noah Gray was going to be open for a touchdown, but Mahomes went underneath the Kelce for a first down, and then they ran it again against Miami. So be on the lookout for that play. It's all over the tape now, so teams are going to know it. So it's going to be a little bit harder for the Chiefs to pull off. But I'm sure Andy's going to take it and like do alterations off it and make some different things. But Gray is capable, and he catches the ball. Yeah. And I'm always surprised at how athletic he is once he gets the ball in his hands. I'm like, you see the size and you expect him just to go right down, and he can move. He's athletic. So I would try to get him the ball a lot more if I was Andy Reid. If they can find a way to do that, because nobody's paying attention to him really, and he's dangerous. The ball in his hand, and he catches it. He's reliable. So I'd get him out there as much as I could.
You said like the main thing, he catches it. Yes. He catches it and he's reliable.
Oh, what a concept.
Oh, it's the strangest thing. Just catch the ball.
Yeah. Chris says take it. Moore is 1 to 12 yards a game. Yeah,
definitely.
So. Flapjack says this is a trick question. We don't have any wide receivers named Sky Moore on this team. Oh, brutal.
That was really funny.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is Trent McDuffie will make the All-Pro team. Take it or leave it.
Take it. If he doesn't, I'll be very disappointed. I mean, we've already talked about him a lot, but this guy is a machine. And I know he doesn't have any interceptions yet, but to me, he's making such a bigger impact by just his physicality and the way he's able to read the receivers, and the way he's just explosive on the defense. Like all of a sudden you'll see like that one play with Tyreek, that was a hard hit. Yeah. That was a hard hit. And between him and Snead, I mean, they're both awesome, but I just feel like McDuffie's great. He's not one that gets a ton of penalties either. He's pretty, what's the word? I feel like he's pretty trusted in that regard. That's probably not the word I'm looking for, but yeah, take it. If he doesn't, I'll be very disappointed. Very disappointed.
Yeah, I'm with you. He'll at least, I mean, maybe it doesn't end up being first team All-Pro, but he'll make an All-Pro team. Daniel says take it. Shout out to ZK4BZ for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Says Gray has big upside. I agree. I want to see more of Gray. Ronald says take it. He says it would be a disservice if he did not. I agree. He's smart, positions well, and can tackle consistently. Yeah, I used to be I'm always hammering about how good of a tackler Snead is. McDuffie's really been good in that area too. He just does it all. And I think what's tricky, like what has helped him is the turnovers, because that's what like gets everybody's attention when you're trying to make an all-pro team, is you have those turnovers. And so I really think if he continues to play well and he gets maybe one or two more turnovers over the course of the second half of the season and makes like some big splash plays, that's how he gets first team all pro. People look and be like, oh, look at all these fumbles he caused. He gets a couple picks. It's a lock. He's been absolutely tremendous. And the defense has been real. That helps too, right? He's not a guy who's played well on a terrible defense. They've been one of the best in the NFL. All right.
Completely agree.
Mike Dana, who I mentioned earlier, is tied with Chris Jones at 5.5 sacks. George Karlaftis has 6. Dana will finish the year with the most sacks on the team. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I just think George Karlaftis is having an amazing season. I think like we saw him come on really strong in the second half of last season. That's where he got the majority of his sacks last season. I think that's only going to continue. The fact that he has 6 and we're only halfway through is really, really remarkable for a second-year guy. I'm really high on George. I know this is a Mike Dana question, but I'm just really high on George Karlaftis. Dana's had a great season. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to go with George.
George just he keeps coming and coming and coming and coming, and so he gets a lot of those cleanup sacks. Diane says leave it. Tom Hood says leave it. I am going to say take it. I'm going to take it. Mike Dana, and let me tell you why.
Ooh.
He's the last guy you got to worry about. Like if you line up and you've got Chris Jones out there and Amenahue and Karlaftis and Mike Dana, he's going to get favorable matchups. He's going to get cleanup sacks, and they're rotating him in, so he's going to be fresh. I just think he's going to I think it's going to go like it has, where rather than Chris has the big splashy number and everybody else has a handful to themselves, I think it's going to continue to be even. You know, Chris Jones gets a couple, Amenahue gets some, and it's Jones and Karlaftis and Dana. And I think Dana's going to pull away because I think he's just going to benefit from fantastic matchups the whole year and benefit from the talent around him. And then he's going to leave and he's going to get a really big contract from somebody who's desperate for a pass rusher, and he's going to underwhelm. And I really like Mike Dana, but I just think he's in this perfect situation with these pass rushers.
Yeah, that's a really good point, though. I don't think he's going to be as productive at another team, and I want him to get paid. He deserves, he deserves a payday. But I think you're completely right on that. Yeah, we've got a really strong front four, and there's a lot to protect there.
Yep. It's going to be good for Mike Dana, man. I hope he gets a massive contract, and I hope he lives up to it. Just hope maybe for an NFC team. Okay. Next up here, take it or leave it. Rashee Rice has 378 receiving yards. He will explode in the second half of the year and finish with over 1,000 receiving yards. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. I could see him getting about 700, 750. I do think he'll step up a little bit in the set. I don't want to say step up, but I think he'll get more targets in the second half of the season. And I do think that's going to get him that's going to propel him a little bit, but I don't think he'll hit 1,000. I think he would have needed to be at least halfway by now to hit that 1K mark. And obviously he's not there yet. I think they're going to keep using him. I think they're going to use him more correctly going forward. I'd like to see him on the outside a little bit more, which could get him a little bit more yards. I mean, he's a beast on yards after the catch, which is awesome. I don't think he's going to hit 1,000.
Yeah, so he needs what? 622 yards, right? And they played 9 games, so they've got 8 games to go. So 622 divided by 8. So he needs to average 77.75 yards per game to get to 1,000. And he could have a couple where he has 100. it's tough because I think, they need him to do really well in the second half to get this offense going. But do they get him going at a 77 yard per game clip when they got Travis Kelce out there and the way they spread the ball around? No, I don't think so. I'm going to leave it. But I think he's going to get close. I think he's going to eclipse 900 or come very close to it. Tom Hood says 700 to 750, so he leaves it. Daniel Akers says leave it apprehensively. Ronald says leave it, but more important is he'll run more routes. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting, but I think he could have a couple splash games down the stretch. He's looked like really solid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and first year receivers in Andy's offense, they don't typically hit 1K.
Right. Yeah.
Has he?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know when the last wide receiver that had 1K. That was a rookie for him.
For Andy? I don't know either. It's not. I know there were a lot of things floating around the offseason about rookie, like Tyreek didn't. So, there you have it. He likes to go with the veterans. Okay. Patrick Mahomes, take it or leave it. Patrick Mahomes has 8 interceptions. The most he's ever had in a single season was in 2021 when he threw 13. Patrick Mahomes will throw more than 13 interceptions this season. Take it or leave it.
Let's see. So he has 8 right now. So wow. So if he hits 5 more in the back half of the season over 8 games. I'm going to leave it. I think he'll be right at 13 or so. I feel like he really struggles against the Broncos in general with throwing picks, and both those games are back behind us now. I do think he'll start to get a little bit more honed in on what works in this offense, and I don't think we'll see him holding on to the ball as long. I think he's going to really start trusting those receivers, and I see his decision-making improving. I'm going to leave it. I think he'll have 13, right at 13.
I'm with you. I'm going to leave it as well. I think that if the offense gets going, he'll stop pressing so much and he'll cool off on those interceptions. Daniel says leave it. Lauren Shanks, leave it. Ronald, leave it. Tom Hood says leave it. Okay, let's pick up the pace here. This is a great one. Andy Reid will call a quarterback sneak. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. He's not doing that. I think the better chance would be Mahomes just doing it without Andy calling it. Mahomes just being like, whatever, I'm just going to take it. Leave it.
I'm going to take it. I think it's going to happen. I think
Shocked.
There's going to be a moment. It's like the greatest advantage in the history of sports right now, because there isn't a soul alive that believes they're ever going to run that quarterback sneak again. And I bet at the bye week, they start practicing it, and Andy busts it out in like a high leverage moment, and he'll do it'll be a totally Andy Reid quarterback sneak too. Like it won't look like it's going to be a quarterback sneak. Like Mahomes will go up there and get under center, and he'll have everybody all spread out and have all kinds of crazy motion. And Mahomes will walk around, and then they'll do it. And Mahomes will probably go 80 yards for a touchdown, because it'll part like the Red Sea, because they'll all think the ball is going horizontal. Okay.
I like that prediction.
I would. Lots of leave it. Okay. Richie James will come back and prove to be the missing piece on offense. Take it or leave it. You're already shaking your head.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it. It would be great, right? It would be awesome, but I just don't feel like I saw enough from him in the preseason to make me feel like that's the missing piece.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it as well. I just don't. I like Richie James. Maybe he can help out. They get him back on specialty. But they were talking about, maybe there was rumors that they might they were like dangling him for a trade. And so maybe they don't think he has it either. Okay. The Chiefs will take it or leave it. The Chiefs will beat both the Bills and the Bengals down the stretch.
I'm going to leave it. I hate that. I hate saying that. I know the Bills haven't been as strong lately. I think they've really struggled, and I think we're seeing that they're really not the team that they were last season. But when we play them, they are coming off of a bye. So that is just something to consider. I do think we'll beat the Bengals. I'm gonna leave it. I think we struggle with one of those teams. I unfortunately do think it's the Bills, even though I think we're the better team. I think it could be one of those games.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I'm going to take it. I think they can do it this year because of the defense. Now, I could see them losing. I think they're going to beat the Bills. And the two games I'm the most worried about is Eagles and the Bengals. But I could see them losing that Bengals game because I could see like Andy and Spags. I mean, Spags admitted it last year. Like he had stuff that he did not use in that first game against the Bengals. So, that game against the Bengals probably won't be for the number 1 seed. So if it's not, I could see the Chiefs hold back a little bit. And it ends up being a little bit closer. And then they empty the clip in the playoffs if they run into them again. But I'm going to take it. I think this year with that defense playing the way that it is, they're not going to have some of the issues that they had before. All right, 2 more here. Take it or leave it. The Chiefs will win the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Take it. The Ravens are hot on our trail. And they're a good team. They look really good. But I think we only lose one more game in the back half here, which would put us at 14-3. And I think we wrap it up with the 1 seed again. Yeah. And the AFC Championship comes through Arrowhead again.
I'm with you. I'm going to take it. I think the Chiefs lose 4 games, but I think if that happens, I think they'll lose to the Eagles, and I think that'll end up being the tiebreaker, is that they'll have 2 losses to NFC teams. So I think they've got an advantage there. So I'm going to take it. And then lastly, the Chiefs, take it or leave it, will finish 13-4 or better this season.
Oh, take it. Yeah, I think we'll finish 14-3. I do think we'll only lose 1 more game.
Oh, that'd be great. I
want
want to run the table. I want to run the table.
That would be great too.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing before we get out of here, I know we've run a little bit long. Kylie's been so generous with her time. Patty's Power Rankings, it's back. And I don't know how we haven't done this ranking before. But we're going to do it now. And I'm really excited about it because it's a food one. Barbecue.
I love food. I'm all in.
Right?
Yeah.
Top 3. What are your top 3 barbecue sides?
Do you want me to get specific and give you like places? Just
Sure,
whatever.
if you want to. Yeah.
So the beans from KC Joe's are probably my favorite side of any barbecue place I've ever had.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. They're a little spicy. I absolutely love them. Get them every time when I go. I also really like cheesy corn. You got to put that up there. It's definitely another side. I'm not really like a fries person. So I would say that the third one has to be a potato salad. I'm not a big coleslaw girl, but like potato salad, cheesy corn, baked beans, I'm in. Yeah.
Tom Hood asked if pulled pork counts. I guess it can. I'm with you.
Or
on
burn-ins.
my list. On my list are the beans at Joe's. Fantastic. So again, I don't even live in Kansas City, but that's what I get every time I go there.
That's amazing that we were on the same page about that.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with cornbread. Anywhere, anytime, is so good. And then my last one. Boy, this is a tough one.
It's so hard.
It really is. And a lot of times I don't get sides because I just want to eat as much meat as possible.
Right.
But baked beans, cornbread, and look, mac and cheese, man. Like,
ooh,
just the straight up mac and cheese. Like especially if the place has good barbecue sauce, because I just dump the barbecue sauce on the mac and cheese and then I stir it up. Fantastic.
Great one. That's a great one. Mac and cheese.
Yeah. Give me mac and cheese all day, every day. So good.
Right.
Yeah. All right, we got to get out of here. It is getting late. Football is going to be starting. Are you jacked up for Bears Panthers tonight? Or are you just like,
what a terrible atrocity that is that we have that to watch tonight?
Awful. Bajit. He's played okay. But yeah, not it's bad primetime all weekend too. It's just like it's like you don't have a Chiefs game and then all the primetime games are absolutely awful too. But I'm gonna watch it because I'm sick, that's how I feel. I was like, I'm not gonna watch this game. On Monday I was talking about it, and then come Thursday I'm like, I need it. Yeah, I gotta watch football. Kylie, it's so awesome of you to come back on. This was so much fun talking to you at the halfway point. We'll have to get you back on towards the end of the season. Where can people find you and get y'all's content?
Well, so I am on How About Those Chiefs every Wednesday night. We do a live stream at 8 o'clock Central Time. So you can find me there. You also can find me on Kingdom Kast. I'm there every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. So we'll actually be there tonight. So I'll miss a little bit of the game, which is probably fine. And then you can check me out on Twitter. I'm always talking about Chiefs football, ranting, raving, sometimes happy, sometimes sad. But yeah, at the Kylie Winfrey, and you can also find me on Instagram and occasionally here. So this has been so fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you again for joining us. Thanks to everybody for your support, your participation in the chat today. You guys have been absolutely awesome. Thanks to producer Richard for making sure this thing works. They're going to let Kylie get out of here so she can not be podcasting all night long. We'll see you guys next week with our regular slate of programs, and we'll get you ready for that Chiefs-Eagles game. But until then, for the whole crew here, for all of our members, I'm Patrick Allen. We'll see you next week. And until then, go Chiefs.